on that. So to constantly accuse Democrats of not caring about that is really, I can only say that you aren't listening. So I hope this is the end of this hearing, Mr. Chairman, and that we don't have to listen to any more of your rhetorical speeches. Thank you very much. I'm leaving.
She stormed out. Ted Cruz called her out. And what happened next? Pure political fireworks. If you thought the left could handle the heat, think again. Because this moment proves otherwise. Buckle up, patriots. This one's going to explode.
Welcome to Say Something Negative About Antifa right now. What else does BLM, the organization, support? On its website, it has called for a, quote, boycott of white capitalism. In 2017, they called on people not to spend any money with white corporations. And not only that, the BLM website says that one of their objectives is dismantling the, quote, patriarchal practices and disrupting the Western prescribed nuclear family. That's what they say their objectives are. Now, the reason that matters is right now corporate America is desperate to demonstrate their virtue as we see great racial dissension. So Black Lives Matter, BLM, the group, raises money on Act Blue, the fundraising mechanism for virtually every elected Democrat in Congress. Among the donors to BLM, the organization, according to public reports, include the company Ubisoft, which has given between $50,000 and $100,000, DoorDash, which has given reportedly $500,000, Amazon, which has given an unidentified portion of $10 million, Gatorade, which has given an unidentified portion of $500,000, Nabisco, which has given an unidentified portion of $500,000.
Wow.
Deckers, which has given an unidentified portion of $500,000, Microsoft, which has given $250,000, Dropbox, which has given $500,000, and Fitbit, which the amount given is not identified. I would note Microsoft.
Ted Cruz didn't hold back when he slammed the radical hypocrisy of Black Lives Matter's stance against white capitalism. He sarcastically challenged them. If you're really that offended by the so-called products of white capitalism, then stop using all the modern-day conveniences created by it. That includes your phones, your cars, the airplanes you fly in, even the electricity that powers your protests. Let's see you walk away from all that. He laid out the contradiction plain and simple. If you think white capitalism is so evil, why are you cashing checks from companies built by it? Microsoft, Amazon, DoorDash, even Gatorade. These mega corporations funneled hundreds of thousands, even millions, into an organization that publicly calls for their own defunding. Microsoft, for example, handed out $250,000 while their founder, Bill Gates, happens to be a white billionaire. Irony much. Then there's Amazon, owned by Jeff Bezos, another white billionaire, donating to a group that literally campaigns against white-owned corporations. It's not just tone-deaf. It's absurd. Cruz's point hit hard. How can you claim moral high ground while cashing in on what you condemn? And while corporate America is bending over backward to prove its wokeness, Cruz reminded everyone that this virtue signaling comes at a cost. Because while they're busy donating to radical groups, who's standing up for actual law and order? The people funding chaos in the name of justice may want to rethink what they're endorsing. Then Cruz turned to the right, his own party, and dropped some tough love. He called out the cowardice, the hesitation, the endless preaching of principles while getting steamrolled in real time. He asked the brutal question, when exactly is it time to start playing offense? Because all this principled losing, he's seen how that's worked out. And it hasn't.
Largest individual shareholder is Bill Gates. It's more than ironic that Microsoft is funding an organization calling for boycotting all white corporations. Bill Gates is white. Microsoft is literally funding an organization calling for Microsoft to be defunded. Jeff Bezos, the largest owner of Amazon, who likewise is funding this radical Marxist group. Jeff Bezos is white too. And he's funding an organization that is calling for the boycotting of Amazon. This is dangerous.
What's based?
And it's worth understanding that when corporate America floods millions of dollars into explicitly Marxist terrorist organizations that glorify cop killers, that glorify violence, that the violence and terrorism that flows from that should not be surprising. Without objection, I'm going to enter into the record an article from the Washington Examiner dated July 23rd, 2020, the title of which is, "Who is Black Lives Matter?" And I would encourage anyone who wants to understand who this organization is to read this article. On the proposition as a value proposition, do Black Lives Matter? Absolutely yes. And our nation was founded on the proposition that all men are created equal, regardless of race or skin color. But the organization that has seized that name is very different, and if they succeeded with their stated #1 objective of defunding and abolishing every police department, many, many more black lives would be lost because more African Americans would be murdered without the police officers that bravely risked their lives to defend those communities.
It's cool hearing Ted Cruz talk tough now, but where was that energy when it mattered? When cities burned and police were vilified, we needed leaders who didn't flinch. Maybe he spoke out, maybe he didn't. But if he did, no one remembers. And let's not forget, during the COVID chaos, Cruz backed policies like no mask if you got the jab. That's not liberty. That's compliance wrapped in patriotism. So, yeah, he's loud now. But when the pressure was real, the silence was louder. Actions speak, and too many folded when it counted.
Senator Hirono.
Uh-oh.
Mr. Chairman, I have to say, sometimes I don't think you listen. So how many times have I had to say that we all should be denouncing violent extremists of every stripe?
Does that include
By
Antifa?
the way, I have the time. By the way, you know, the Republicans are constantly
Nope.
using, I have to say, you brought it up yourself, the deaths of these black police officers, Patrick Underwood and David Dorn, for making political points. And the fact that it was right-wing extremists who killed Officer Underwood, that seems to be lost in this argument. And now there are all these attacks about Black Lives Matter and what they're saying. I mean, how many of us even think that defunding police departments should be taken literally? I mean, I certainly don't. So
The level of dishonesty here is unreal. Watching her say all this with a straight face is almost impressive. She claims nobody takes defund the police literally? Come on. Plenty of Democrats did, and still do. Let's not pretend. Minneapolis slashed their police budget right after the George Floyd incident by $8 million. Los Angeles cut a $150 million. And New York City, a jaw-dropping $1 billion. That's not metaphor. That's action. And what happened next? Crime skyrocketed across these same cities. The data doesn't lie. But here she is, standing in front of the country acting like none of it happened. Honestly, who still buys this narrative? It's beyond belief. The worst part, they tried to rewrite history in real time, as if we didn't all live through it, as if we didn't see the boarded-up businesses, the looted stores, the skyrocketing homicide rates. And now, they're gaslighting the public, pretending it was all just a big misunderstanding. But voters aren't as blind as these politicians hope. The footage is still out there. The quotes are still out there. People remember who said what and when. And come election season, there's going to be a reckoning for the doublespeak and the damage left behind.
you know, we have this pesky thing called freedom of speech.
It is pesky.
And
to you.
I'd say that the people who support Black Lives Matter, and if they're calling for various boycotts and all that, that's called freedom of speech. And that's what this hearing title is, protecting speech. So all I can say is, look, we should all join hands and denouncing and whatever words you want to use about violent extremism of all stripes. And I think we can all agree on that. So to constantly accuse Democrats of not caring about that is really, I can only say that you aren't listening. So I hope this is the
These people are unbelievably out of touch. And yet, they keep getting invited onto public platforms like they're offering wisdom instead of nonsense. It's mind-blowing that anyone listens, let alone applauds. Even worse, major corporations are bankrolling it all. Microsoft, Amazon, companies founded by the very people BLM says to boycott, are funding the same movement that calls for their downfall. It's self-destruction on full display, and we just let it happen. No pushback, no consequences, just quiet approval and blank checks. Why? Why do we still allow these companies to fuel chaos and deal with people who openly disrespect everything they claim to stand for?
the end of this hearing, Mr. Chairman, and that we don't have to listen to any more of your rhetorical speeches. Thank you very much. I'm leaving.
Oh,
Well, I appreciate the, as always, kind and uplifting words of Senator Hirono. And I would also note that throughout her remarks, she still did not say a negative word about Antifa, nor has any Democrat here. They instead engage in a political game where they depend. You're welcome to say something negative about Antifa right now.
I think that I've covered the subject quite well. You are not listening.
Okay, she declined to speak, so that is the position of the Democratic Party. I would note also that of the 7 Democratic senators who spoke, not a one of them apologized for or denounced multiple Democrats calling law enforcement officers Nazis, stormtroopers, and Gestapo. To be fair, I have not heard the word Nazi, but stormtrooper was Nancy Pelosi and Gestapo was another Democratic.
And of course, they haven't said a single word to condemn it. Not one. They haven't denounced a thing. Because let's face it, these Democrats are fine with it. The truth, they're perfectly okay comparing our police officers, men and women who risk their lives daily, to Nazis, stormtroopers, and Gestapo. And they stay silent because deep down, they agree with it. Let's break it down. 7 Democratic senators spoke during this entire hearing. Not one apologized. Not one pushed back on those disgusting comparisons. Not one stood up for law enforcement. That tells you everything. Sure, Pelosi didn't say Nazi, but she sure did call them stormtroopers. Another top Democrat dropped Gestapo like it was casual lunch talk. And still, nothing. Just silence. Because this is the game now. Demonize the people who keep our streets safe, and then pretend you're taking the moral high ground. It's not just dishonest. It's dangerous. Let's stop pretending they care. Let's stop pretending they're just being passionate or misunderstood. No, this is targeted. It's strategic. It's calculated. And worst of all, it's being normalized. So while they walk out of hearings in fake outrage, remember this. The only reason they're upset is because someone finally held up a mirror and they didn't like what they saw. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.